I really like this first burning question. Here we go. You like that? Look at the effects that producer Nick has put in there. This question, I've had to deal with this one several times. This is not an unusual question, but it does create havoc in the workplace, right? Googled or gagged, right? Um, and what we have here is we have someone who is scheduled for an interview for a senior position in an academic institution. And someone on the team Googled the candidate and revealed that they had been arrested for domestic violence against a mistress and or also had an arrest warrant out for him. So what should we do? Should we bring him in for the interview as it was scheduled? And now I can tell you that's not the first time I've had that question. The extremes that people go through to find out who you're interviewing and to give you your opinion before you've ever talked to them is quite an extreme. I've even seen it where they go up to the registry desk. You know, you walk in, you sign your name in, and they read the names off of the people who came for an interview. They run out, they Google the people, and they start sending notes over to HR about the candidate. Did you know? And did you know they worked here? Did you know they did that? Did you know they had this arrest record? But so it does, this is not an unusual question, but a great question to address. Bert, in your opinion, someone brings you some information. What I want to say is they have an arrest record, but it doesn't mean convicted, right? And we usually make our decisions based upon convictions and length of time of conviction and the seriousness of the conviction and the relative nature of the conviction to the job. And does it get in the way of the job? So academic, been arrested does not say been convicted for domestic violence and has a warrant out for the rest. How would you proceed?
Yeah, so this one you really need to be careful with, obviously. And Phil, you properly bring up a good distinction between conviction and an arrest. The EEOC and most of the court decisions that are out there take the position that a conviction is a relevant inquiry or area of inquiry when you are considering somebody for employment. Now, the timing of that is important. Most questions regarding convictions should be done. First of all, this needs to be done on an individualized basis, where you look at, like you said, the nature of the crime, the nature of the conviction, the job relatedness of the conviction, the time since the offense, those types of criteria. Most inquiries on conviction should be done post offer. Post interview, but pre offer. And so you shouldn't be weeding people out, according to the EEOC, at least in some of the court cases, based on simply a conviction. You shouldn't be weeding them out from the interview process. Okay, so post offer, pre-employment is the time to really dig in. It's kind of when you would do that background check on the individual. That's really the timing of that. So again, post offer, pre-employment is when you would look at that. Now, I do think that there's a difference between somebody who has an arrest and then wasn't convicted over time versus somebody who has an active arrest or an active warrant out there. And so my suggestion would be, I do think that, now that we've been armed with this information, I think that we should ask the individual about the open arrest warrant and try to get some information and determine if it is job related or not. Again, arrests are treated very differently than convictions themselves, and the EEOC really takes a tough stance on employers who are making decisions based on arrests versus convictions.
Yeah, and I mean, if you take this, just peel back some layers on it, and you get into a lot of workplace challenges and problems, right? So you have also the scenario of, well, if you have an employee that is arrested for domestic violence, are you going to terminate the employee?
That's right.
Are you going to take action? And you get into this fairness and ability. interfere with the ability to perform the job. I recognize this person's working in an education institution, so you're kind of exposed to the public, but it's really more about providing safety for your workers. And I think you have to start asking yourselves lots of questions before you take any particular action. Again, you appreciate the help from your coworkers and the employment base at large, but it's not the help that you need. Particularly if you're going through the right steps. You're going to discover this by using AAIM's background checks or some other background check service that's going to make sure that you get the right information to make the decisions you need for employment. So I would tread lightly as well. But now that it is made available, I'm going to ask the questions in the interview. Is there anything I should be aware of, know about? This information has came to our attention, not because we did any research on it ourselves, but if it's an employee that did the research and the employee did the research on company time with company computers, I think you also could have some other problems by saying, well, the employer didn't, because that employee is acting on behalf of the employer, even if not instructed.
Yeah, it's one of those things, Phil. Once we kind of learn something, it's hard to unlearn it.
Unlearn it, yeah.
And so I would go a step further and just say that I don't see it coming up in the scenario of a conviction or an arrest quite as often as I see people going out looking at applicants at social media, and then they learn something about the individual's religious background, or they learn something about the individual's health or age or gender, and those are the types of things you just don't want to put yourself as the employer in a position of being accused of filtering people out based on protected characteristics. So again, I think the timing of a lot of this is important. That a lot of this is done post offer, but pre-employment. That's the timing, and then again, that individualized analysis there, making sure that whatever you learn from the social media is job related.
Yeah, that's a great burning question. Hopefully we gave some good insight on that.
Thanks for being an on-demand viewer of This Week at Work. Don't forget you can be part of the show by watching live at 7:30 a.m. Central every Thursday morning, when you can get your burning questions answered by using the question mark icon to the right of the player. In fact, you can ask a question now. Head over to aimea.org. Under Member Resources, you'll find This Week at Work. Click Listen Live to register for our next episode and submit a question. Or follow or subscribe wherever you get your news and entertainment. We'll see you next week when we discuss what's happening this week at work.